Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for joining this live stream. And in this chat, I'd like to talk about the concept of adoption. I'll begin with child adoption, then draw a parallel from this, the child adoption, and compare it and contrast it with what we're really looking at the moment is mass adoption from black, brown, peasant, dirt poor, basket case countries, and moving these black, brown peasants into the West without the consent or approval of the governed, by the way. And this is tantamount to mass adoption in effect. Now, well, I was years ago. I would have been probably 19 or 20, and I knew a couple where she had a job with the education department back at the time, which was about to be closed down. So it was kind of topical to the things that she was talking about, her concerns about getting another job, that sort of thing. But her job was to go around to the poorer parts of the city, the government housing sort of areas where there was a lot of non-white people, people of low levels of literacy, high crime, that sort of thing, and drug usage and substance abuse generally, because that was where there was a lot of people a lot of younger girls who were getting pregnant and deciding to not terminate the pregnancy. And so, but back in the day, it was assumed, well, this underage girl has got hardly any employment prospects, her family is poor, why put the child through, that situation? So why not find a loving family who wants a child? They openly say they want a child. They've registered. They're saying we want a child, and placing that child with a family that has the resources to look after it. And that's fine. Everyone's in agreement here. No one's being forced to take the child. And so now, sometimes they would take it over the objection of the underage mother, but it was for the best all around. A lot of women back then would give up their children for adoption. It was quite a standard practice at the time, where girls would get pregnant simply to entrap a man into marriage. But if that didn't work, then they'd say, oh, well, it didn't work, I'll give the child up for adoption. And then it was duly adopted out again to a family that wanted it, the child. So, and that had the resources. So, very poor families didn't do too well. You had to have the resources to do it. So this was how things were. Now, there was a radical change went on around that time, when the governments around the world Western world switched their focus, and instead of putting these children out for adoption, they would try and keep the child and the child bearer together. So, and then would give various government benefits and welfare benefits to the woman to keep the child. In some cases, very lucrative. They could get a free house, they could get rent-free, they could get food stamps and free medical care, and everything was thrown in compliments of the taxpayer. So it's quite lucrative for some women to go down that path. Later on, it morphed into the government chasing men for child support under the very spurious view that men were simply deserting the families, which is nonsense. So we had the ridiculous situations where, as a black girl who was pregnant at 13, and her 13-year-old boyfriend, he was delivering papers, and so they were taking, and he's getting like $5 a week, so taking $2 a week out of his $5 a week paper delivery as child support, because they've got to show him he has to be responsible and that sort of stuff. It was quite absurd and obviously very ideological. Now, if we look at sort of mass migration today, we can see an evolution of sorts, where at one stage the World Bank's the big economic institutions were sending money to these poor countries and trying to do things like build dams and build roads and various infrastructure to try and help these people get out of poverty. But what the World Bank and various other institutions found, that as soon as these places went through any increase in affluence, and an example being Ethiopia, when a lot of money went in there, Live Aid and all that stuff, that the population doubled in less than 20 years. So as soon as they see any increase in wealth and any wealth being distributed, money's being handed around, there's extra food, all that sort of thing, then they'll suddenly procreate, and the population will jump geometrically almost, and simply outstrip any wealth that was created. So sending money to the basket case dirt poor countries just didn't work. Billions upon trillions were sent, just didn't work. So, but these peasants, they're not in the world economy. So how does the globalists get these black and brown people into the world economy, get them as workers and consumers? Well, the only solution left to them was to move these people from the dirt poor basket case countries, all these illiterate peasants, to move them from those dirt poor countries into the richer countries, that is the West. Now, the Japanese and the South Koreans won't have much to do with it, but pretty much all the Taiwanese for that matter. But for the white Anglo-Saxon countries, they didn't get a choice. They weren't asked. They would say, you're taking all these black, brown people. That's how it is. And if we've got to replace you so there's no white people left, we don't care. It's what we're going to do. So it's a form of mass adoption. So all these children, these childlike peasants from the third world, are being moved to the first world as a form of forced adoption. They're happy to come because they're getting a better life out of it, and it'd be hard to have a worse life than being a subsistence farmer out in the middle of nowhere. But so they're coming to the West for what they see as a better gig and lots of free stuff, which of course they love. The white population is not benefiting at all from this, or maybe 1 in every 500 or something like that. But so this is a form of mass adoption. And really the black and brown peasants from the third world are now the new children are being put out for adoption, but to families that don't want them. No white Western country would have voted for this, particularly now they've seen the effect of it. So that's my take on how the ideology around adoption has changed and the effect it's having in Western countries now. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.